Jay here, Stretford, Paddock. As you can see, I'm outside Old Trafford for the paper talk, as usual, and it's a little bit breezy, but it's not too bad. I've not even got my parker today. Most of the stories this morning centering around one of the worst games of football ever. United's 0-0 draw with Leeds at Ellen Road. There was a little bit of fallout, and to be honest with you, I'm getting a tad tired of these stories because we seem to be having them almost every week, and you know it's not my job to tell you to tell you the news. It's my job to report on what's being reported, if that makes any sense. And what's being reported is another spat between Harry Maguire and one of his players, or one of the fellow United players. And this time it's Fred. We had it with Solskjaer and Bruno the other week. We had it with Harry Maguire and Marcus Rashford. And apparently Harry Maguire called Fred an effing idiot yesterday during the 0-0 draw. Probably out of boredom, to be honest with you. Probably just amusing themselves because they're that bored during the game. So Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has responded to that yesterday after the game. And he said, we've got a group that demands a lot of each other. The standard is high, both in training and in the game. It's not just about being a nice guy and cajoling, I like that word. We demand maximum effort. I was really proud in the second half, how strong we looked, how we dominated possession, blah-de-blah-de-blah. You know, he goes on to talk about the game. I don't think we need to relive that game. It was one of the worst games, as I said earlier, of football I've ever seen. It was just so boring and so dull, and it's one to forget about. But yeah, there was sort of a little bit of a noise made about the fact that Harry Maguire and Fred seem to have this row in the middle of the game, and Harry Maguire's called Fred an idiot or an effing idiot. Again, though, it doesn't matter. Footballers shout at each other during a game. That happens. It's part and parcel of the game, and you want to see a little bit of that. You know me, I'm not a passion merchant, but you want to see a little bit of effort and a little bit of enthusiasm, and sometimes that will amount to players shouting at each other. It's what players do. I'd be a bit worried if we were going, I'll tell you what, mate, could you put a little bit more effort in, please? That would be nice. No, sometimes you are going to shout at each other, so it's a bit of a non-story, but it's been reported, so I'm going to tell you about it, but I wouldn't look too much into that. I don't expect Harry Maguire and Fred to be meeting each other for a scrap in the car park anytime soon. It's pretty normal. Jay here. You can see I'm back at the studio because we've had a bit of breaking news when we got back from Old Trafford. The story broke that Eric Bailly looks like he's set to sign a new deal at Manchester United. There were rumours and reports that he was unhappy with his lack of playing time and that he was seeking a move elsewhere, but it seems now he is about to sign a new 4-year deal. ESPN reporting it. He hasn't played a lot of football this season. I think he's had 8 Premier League starts and 15 games in all this season, or 15 starts in all competitions, but he is set to put pen to paper on a new 4-year deal. He's 27 years old, so a 4-year deal makes sense. Takes him up to the age of 31 at Manchester United. We all love Eric Bailly. It's just his injuries. The fact he doesn't get many games is because of injuries, really. But a new deal, hopefully he can keep himself fit and throw himself into that Manchester United team. So happy news there on the horizon, hopefully. Eric Bailly set to sign a new 4-year deal. So back to me at Old Trafford. On to other matters. Transfers. We have some transfer news. It feels like we don't want to do any transfer stories anymore with all the shenanigans going on with our owners. Apparently Chelsea have sort of leapfrogged over Manchester United in the pursuit of Raphael Varane. Now, you know Raphael Varane is out of contract soon. Well, he's not signing a new deal at Real Madrid, and he's reportedly available for around 63 million quid. So it looked like Manchester United would be willing to pay that. But now Chelsea could be in the hunt for him as well, and Chelsea could be going to the front of the queue. According to some reports, it looks like they're willing to go to make that deal happen, maybe even pay more than Manchester United are willing to, or offering more wages or whatever. There's several reports indicating that Chelsea are now keen on Raphael Varane. They obviously need to strengthen again. They spend a lot of money anyway. They spent about 200 million quid last season. Looks like they are going to finish below Manchester United in the table, and they are going to finish well off the top in the table as well. So you can expect them to go big in the transfer window this summer. They brought in Thiago Silva last summer as a defender. He's obviously getting on a bit. Is he, 34, 35, I think? Maybe a bit older. So they could need reinforcements. And Raphael Varane, who I think he's just turned 28, but has won the lot. He's won, the World Cup, several Champions League, several La Liga. He's just a trophy-winning machine, one of the most talented defenders on the planet. He's available in the summer. United were rumoured to be in for him. Now Chelsea are too. Could be a bit of maybe it gets into a bidding war or a war over his wages. We'll have to wait and see with that one. But it's always a bit deflating when you hear that a club like Chelsea, with their uncounted billions, are in for a player that you want, because knowing our owners who don't like spending money, who bleed this club dry constantly, and the Chelsea owner who has billions in the bank, then it looks like that could only go one way unless Rafael Varane wants to come to a bigger club. Because let's face facts, Manchester United are a bigger club than Chelsea. He's been at Real Madrid. He might want to go to one of the other big clubs in Europe, and that would be Manchester United. Other transfer news as well, United and Arsenal are tracking 15 million quid Borussia Dortmund forward Alassane Plea. Apparently, United are unsure what's going to happen with Edinson Cavani. Arsenal are unsure what's going to happen with Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang and Alexandre Lacazette. I thought Aubameyang signed a new deal anyway. But this is a report, I think it's come from the Daily Mail. It says that Manchester United and Arsenal among the clubs monitoring Borussia Mönchengladbach forward Alassane Plea. The 28-year-old is ready to leave Germany this summer. With 1 year left on his contract, could be available for a relative bargain of 15 million quid. He's got 11 goals this season. And his ratio is about 1 in 3, and he can play across the front line, anywhere across the front line. I mean, that's okay, 1 in 3. It's not like, oh, we must get him. And at 28, he's not going to kick on and get any better. One thing that may appeal to the club is the £15 million fee. It's relatively cheap. And we know that Manchester United like a bargain. If there are any aspirations to go big, maybe not this summer, but the following summer, I don't know if there are. Maybe he could be a stopgap, because we have a lot of stopgaps here, don't we? Odin Ighalo, looks like Cavani may be a stopgap. Maybe that lad might be another stopgap. We'll have to wait and see. I don't know. It's one to keep an eye on. But just because a player doesn't cost a lot doesn't mean he's not good. But you have to sort of be a little bit concerned if you're going for 28-year-olds that cost 15 million quid who aren't really in that top tier, are they? Let's face facts. Borussia Mönchengladbach aren't one of the best teams in Europe, and a kid who's got 11 goals this season, whilst a decent return, isn't tearing it up. So, yes, that's interesting, but it's not one that gets me very excited. You may disagree, and if you do, get involved in the comments. Let us know. Let us know if you know much about him, because I've never heard of him until today. Another story doing the rounds, going back to our owners, because they've been in the papers a lot recently, as usual, for the wrong reasons. Boris Johnson's been urged to reveal about his meeting. The details of his meeting with Ed Woodward. Apparently, he had a meeting with Ed Woodward. Well, it's been reported that it was actually his chief of staff, Dan Rosenfield, who had a meeting with Ed Woodward. And this is a line that just made me laugh in this story. That Johnson only bumps into Ed Woodward briefly in the corridor at number 10. I mean, what's all that about? Oh, we didn't have a meeting. Just bumps into him on the way to the toilet. Didn't really talk about much. Yeah, nothing really. Just, nothing, things, stuff. Well, we want to know what he spoke about, because if he did know about the doomed Super League idea, it kind of goes against what Boris Johnson's been saying. Boris Johnson has been telling everyone that he was against the Super League. He's promised to drop a legislative bombshell on the clubs that were considering going into the Super League. That's ourselves, obviously, City, Liverpool, Arsenal, Chelsea and Spurs in the Premier League, and some other clubs across Europe as well. There's talk of there being this sort of model that they have in Germany. I think it's the 50+1 model, where fans get a say. We get a say in the running of the club. I think it's slightly different from ownership. There's a few tweets doing around, a few explanations about that, because some people think that's like we own half the club or fans own more of the club, and it's not quite that. I think it's voting rights. Anyway, Boris Johnson's been talking like he's some sort of champion of English football, and he's not having this Super League idea, and he's against it, and he's going to change legislation in this country to fight against it, and he didn't know anything about it. He's claimed that he found out about it when the rest of us did, basically, when it was announced or when it was leaked. And now that may not be true, because, as I said earlier, his chief of staff met with Ed Woodward, and he's saying that he bumps into him in the hallway. I mean, it all sounds very iffy, doesn't it? We'll have to wait and see what comes out of that. Boris Johnson's obviously got other things on his mind that I won't get into, I'm sure you're aware. But we need to know the details of that, and if Boris Johnson did know, then can we trust him when he says he is going to change legislation to make it much more difficult for this kind of thing to ever happen again? Because can we trust these owners not to try and do something like this again and try and create another Super League or another British League or another Western Europe League or whatever you want to call it? They may always try some more shenanigans, as I said earlier, so I've got no faith in them not trying to do that, and maybe legislation is the way forward. But again, can you trust Boris Johnson? Can you trust the owners? Can you trust any of these people? We know that there's a lot of anger, as always, towards our owners. There are some protest plans. We'll be keeping you abreast of all that. We saw quite a lot of protests. Saw some protests last week. We did see quite a bit. We saw one here at the weekend. There was the lads who went down to Carrington as well and spoke to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. We covered that, of course. And there is another one planned, I think, ahead of the Liverpool game this weekend. I think it's 2 o'clock. Ahead of the Liverpool game, I think kickoff for Liverpool is at 4 o'clock. So people are going to be a couple of hours beforehand. when there's a game on as well, so you can expect get quite a lot of publicity, quite a big turnout as well. Manchester United fans obviously very unhappy with the Glazers ownership. It's not just about the Super League, it obviously goes much deeper than that. We're not happy with the way we've been treated, we're not happy with the way they're running the club, we're not happy with just anything they've done since they come here. You know, they've taken, what is it, over $1 billion, they've ploughed us into debt, they keep taking these dividends, and it's just not, we're not having it anymore. Just one final story as well, there's been 2 inductees into the inaugural is that right? The first 2 inductees anyway into the Premier League Hall of Fame are Alan Shearer and Thierry Henry. Decent players, yeah, you know. Thierry Henry, he's got a couple of Premier League title wins under his belt. Alan Shearer's got 1. Alan Shearer's scored 260 goals, I think, in the Premier League. Thierry Henry, I think, scored 175. So you can see why, you know, the good players, just a bit disappointing or a bit baffling for me as a Manchester United fan, why someone like Andy Cole, who's got more goals than Thierry Henry and more Premier League winners' medals, doesn't get a shout. I kind of get the Shearer one, he's got the most goals. If you're going to base it on just that, he's got the most goals, so let's just give him that. It's coming towards an end, isn't it, this title bid that we had, if you can even call it that. But Ole Gunnar Solskjaer making noises that he's going to keep going, and I can understand that. We have to keep pushing Manchester City. With that in mind, we'll be pushing all our content, like what I did there. This week, we'll have previews of the Roma game. United obviously facing Roma in the Europa League this Thursday. I think we're at Old Trafford for the first leg. Also as well, we've got the Scousers on the Sunday, so there's 2 massive games coming up. We've got lots of interviews coming up as well. We'll be keeping you abreast of any developments in terms of protests. We've got the one at the weekend. If there's any other ones, we'll be covering them as well. We've got podcasts coming up. You'll have Adam McCullough and Joe Smith as well later today with Premier League P-Take, so make sure you're watching that, checking out all the other content we've got as well. Don't forget to hit like, share and subscribe. I've been Jay Moy. This has been The Paper Talk. Thanks for watching.